So you excited to go to New York?
Huh? Am I excited to go to New York? Yeah. Oh, this is gonna be so much nicer. I'm so happy.
So when approaching traveling with airlines, there's kind of two ways you can approach it. Let's just rent all the equipment when we get there, or let's figure out a way to carry all the equipment with us. Well, you put a camera on, it's like a crane for a camera. And they're like, oh, well, that's neat. And then, well, let me have Joe look at it. In this case, we're heading out to the Hamptons in New York, and as we were kind of searching through the area, we couldn't really find any good rental spots. For us, we don't like to rent the camera packages because we find that we lose productivity because we've built out our camera packages to be very specific in the way it's built and the way it's set up and the way it functions. If you're carrying a lot of heavy stuff, almost all airlines have a media rate that you can find a way to get into. Every airline is completely different with how they do media rate. Some you just have to show them identification that you're part of a media company. Others you have to apply for it in weeks in advance. Some just don't offer it. One thing to know about media rate is only for luggage over 50 pounds. So really the only time we worry about media rate is if we're doing a very heavy item, which typically we don't. We try not to carry C-stands with us everywhere we go. It's easier to rent a C-stand while we're out there. So what do we usually bring? For us, when we approach flying, the key is to not check anything that would completely ruin the shoot if it got lost. So cameras and audio come on as carry-ons. Anything that, again, if we lost, we could still do the shoot without, would be like lights, other grip accessories. In this case, we were flying to New York for the shoot for the client. We brought 2 3Ks, check them. We had 2 tripods, we checked them. We had our C-stands, we checked them. Obviously, you can't put that in a carry-on. It'd be kind of funny. One thing that we found, obviously it depends on which airline you fly with, but we called the airline beforehand and checked to see if a cart could account as a accessibility device or an accessory device. Sometimes they call it an assistive device, like a wheelchair or a baby carriage type thing. When we called JetBlue, they said that that would work fine. We told them that it folded up, and so we were actually able to bring our foldable cart, which was so much better. We actually did a flight to California where we didn't think about bringing the cart and we carried everything by hand, and it was, man, getting on and off, like the bus that we had to take to our rental car was just a pain in the butt. So much better this time around. We brought the foldable cart, rolled everything through the airport, basically had all of our carry-on stuff on the cart through the gate up until we were just about to board the airplane, broke down the cart, set it over in the assistive device area, and then we carried the rest on. It was wonderful. The only caveat to that is through some very busy airports, man, some of them freak out about, in this case, it would be like me rolling the cart, and it would be 3 carry-on bags for the other crew members, all in one cart. And sometimes the security starts freaking out. They're like, oh, you can't carry that much on the airplane. It's like, oh, it's not mine. It's this person, and this person's. It created a big uproar, and we were getting dog searched and all kinds of stuff because someone was 100% certain that we were smuggling drugs onto the airplane. Also, just expect delays. When you're carrying camera equipment, sometimes you'll draw a lot of negative attention to yourself just because the cases look big. People freak out when there's big hard cases, or if you have to carry a sandbag, everybody's gonna think it's full of cocaine. You bring a big long stick looking thing, everybody thinks it's a rifle. So just be expecting delays and prepare for those delays. The biggest thing is that you need to be the informed person when you're flying. That way when you get towards boarding and they're like, oh, these lithium-ion batteries can't go on board, and you could pull out the printed documentation and say, yeah, according to the TSA website, you can carry a 100 watt-hour battery. And how many of those batteries can you carry? And so it's just great to have that documentation. And it comes in handy to know what we can bring and what we can't. And in the end, traveling with equipment isn't that bad. The first time is always a little scary, but after a while, you just kind of get used to it. And it's actually a pretty simple experience once you know the ropes and once you're informed. So we're with COMV Productions. COMV Productions. We're out of Salt Lake City. And yourself? Okay, cool. Are you out of Salt Lake? Cool. What part of Salt Lake?
Well, I live in Springville, but
Cool, man.
with
So at COMV Productions, COM is in Mary, V is in Victor, COMV.
How was the flight?
It was good. It was a great flight. I sat in a seat. I went to sleep, and then my own screen woke me up. It was like blinding me all of a sudden. I was like, and I turned it off, and then it was too late. I was awake. We can't find a van that's big enough to fit all the equipment, so we're trying to figure out a bigger car.
If you're carrying equipment, I would definitely recommend renting a car. Ubering with a bunch of equipment is just kind of crazy, and it's kind of hard to figure out who is going to be bringing your equipment, or what size of car they're going to be carrying, and actually how much stuff they have in that car besides carrying you. It can be expensive, depends on where you go. I would definitely recommend never go with budget. I think they are horrible with customer service, at least in my experience. I prefer Alamo or National. One of the biggest reasons why we like to rent with Alamo is mainly because not all vehicles are created equal in the same class. Like if you get like a minivan class and you get one of the Dodge Caravans, sometimes a lot of the Dodge Caravans, they just kind of crammed it all in there, and it's just not as spacious as some other minivans. Through any other type of rental company, you don't get a choice. You just pick your, mid-size range class, and then they just say, here's the vehicle that you get. And sometimes it won't fit your equipment, and sometimes it will. That's why we love Alamo. In this case, when we went to New York, we got into the Alamo place, and all they had was a bunch of Dodge Caravans. So we were seeing if they could upgrade us maybe to the SUV model. When we rent, we try not to rent like 8-passenger seaters because the price doubles or triples, versus usually the minivans, we can fit everybody in there and still comfortably fit the equipment. So we tend to go for the minivan class if we're shooting with a typical like a 4-person crew. Anyways, so all they had was Dodge Caravans. We got to talk with them, negotiate a little bit, and they had a Chrysler van that had just been returned, and so they were able to rush clean that for us and get it situated for us, and it worked great. So really, in the end, the moral of the story is keep calm. Keeping calm, talking with people, being friendly to people, telling people about what you're doing, getting people excited about what you're doing. They'll always usually find a way to help you and help you accomplish what you're trying to have. What you're trying to get done. In this case, they just pushed through a cleaning a lot faster so that we could get access to a car that would actually accommodate everything. Oh, and also, big tip, it usually is in your benefit to pay for the gas at the rental place because they get it for like 20 or 30 cents less than what the local area has. Now, a lot of times they will just charge you for the full tank, but usually when you get back, you can always call them back and be like, hey, I got charged for a full tank, I only used half a tank, and they'll reimburse you for the remainder amount. So usually it works out great.
Oh. Looks like it though, right?
I'll be back.
Yeah. What? You better take it back.
Not our luggage.
You better take it back.